Well, yesterday's optimism has quickly turned to disappointment. Me, and like a lot of you guys in the comments, shortly after getting our pre-order in for the 6800 XT, within a few hours we got an email from overclockers.co.uk saying they're unable to fulfill the order. And it's a bit weird because they were speaking as if we'd ordered a card from stock rather than having pre-ordered something, even though, you know, in the two products they had there, in the box where you click add to basket, it said pre-order for the 25th. But the email was worded as if we'd ordered something from stock and that they didn't have enough stock to fulfill it, and so they cancelled my order and some of yours, and they refunded us all, and then encouraged us to come back on the 25th and try again. Thanks, overclockers. I love nothing more than spending my time roaring home from work and sitting here pressing F5 all fucking day trying to get a graphics card, which will be for the third time this year. So, to be honest, I've given up. Some of you will know I needed a graphics card, or needed a graphics card to run my G2 that's coming on the 30th. Well, my 2080 will run the G2. It's just not going to run it on the very highest detail settings in games like Half-Life Alyx that have really good graphics. You know, it will run it well enough. I might have to drop back to high or medium, but it will do for now. And the second reason I wanted a graphics card is so that the 2080 that's in here could go downstairs into my front room PC, so that me and Katie and friends, when we're allowed people around the house, can do multiplayer VR. So I'll have the G2 up here and the Quest 2 downstairs, connected via either the link cable or over virtual desktop, depending what games you want to play. At the moment, that PC has a 1050 Ti in, so it's no good for VR. So I've given up. I'm not going to try on the 25th to get a 6800 XT or hang around for a 3080. What I've done is hopped on eBay and I've just bought myself a 1080 Ti. Now, the reason for that, obviously, I ain't going to replace my 2080. They basically perform the same apart from in ray tracing. But that can go in my downstairs PC, and at least we'll be able to play some multiplayer virtual reality games over the winter, because it's this time of year where there's nothing to do outside. It's only getting colder, it's only getting wetter, the days are getting shorter. I want to have, enough stuff to do at home to keep us occupied and to pass the time and have a bit of a laugh over these sort of lockdown periods and the winter to come. So I paid £385, including delivery, for a boxed 3080, 2080, 1080 Ti, really going back now. And the guy had recently replaced all the thermal paste and pads with some aftermarket ones from Thermal Grizzly, which is something that I would probably have done anyway. Fans have all been cleaned out. He's shown all pictures of everything. So that should be, a plenty good enough card to run the Quest via link over virtual desktop downstairs for me and Katie and other people to be able to do some multiplayer VR. Now, talking about 3080s, I see a couple of people in the comments yesterday on my video where I was saying about sharing my experience trying to get a 6800. They said they're also trying to get 6800, but whilst they were perusing the different websites to land a 6800, CCL Computers actually had, very briefly, stock of 3080s, all the various, I think it might have been the 3000 series, all the models that are available. So that would just be the 3070, I guess just the 3070 and the 3080, and maybe the 3090 then. And two of the people or maybe three of the people in the comments actually managed to just buy one, because at that moment everybody was busy looking for AMD cards. And so CCL had this little bit of stock just crop up, and a few lucky people have managed to land themselves, a 3000 series card. Now again, I mentioned the other day about the 10 gig of RAM on the 3080s being a little bit restrictive in higher resolution games and thinking about going forwards. So I still probably wouldn't have bought one of those because I really want it for VR. And the G2 runs 2160 by 2160 per eye. That is far higher than any 4K display, single monitor display that you might use for gaming. And if a 3080 is struggling with 10 gig of RAM, in 4K gaming in certain titles, you bump that resolution up again, it's going to struggle even further. So I probably still wouldn't have got a 3080 even if I'd seen one on CCL yesterday. There is the rumour 3080 Ti that's supposed to be coming with 20 gig of RAM, and of course that would solve the issue, but it's probably going to be expensive. And the problem is this GDDR6X is expensive RAM. I believe people are saying the yield isn't particularly good, meaning for every 100 they produce, they have to throw away 50. You know, instead of out of every 100 they produce, you get to keep 99, and there's only one failure. So the 3080 Ti still isn't going to be a very cheap card, and the performance is basically, it's a 3080, you know, because the 3080 and the 3090 perform basically the same in gaming across most titles anyway. It's just going to be that extra RAM. So I'm just going to wait until the new year, until springtime. Depending what happens, I may even wait until this time next year, because that 1080 Ti will run the downstairs machine just fine, and we'll see how my 2080 runs the G2. There's also a chance that I may actually sell on my G2 and buy another Quest 2, because using virtual desktop wirelessly in games that work well, you know, like first-person shooters, I think it's going to be hard going back to a wired connection using the G2. And the other thing is, the G2 seems to struggle in first-person shooters with the tracking compared to the Quest 2. And I already get a reasonable amount of controller tracking loss using the Quest 2 because of how I like to hold, you know, things two hands. So it might be that the G2 turns out to be the perfect headset for sim racers, but not for people like me who also play a fair amount of first-person shooters and other titles in VR as well. So there is a chance, you know, once I've reviewed my G2, once I've spent some time with it, I may well just move it on if I find the tracking is as bad as what some people are making it out to be on YouTube. That might be the case, in which case, you know, my 2080 will still run the Quest 2 just fine over Link and over virtual desktop, and you know, I won't need a new graphics card. So yeah, I may well end up, you know, sort of not changing card until perhaps later next year. Anyway, you know, throughout the summer months, I tend not to game that much anyway. You know, when it's hot and sunny, I like to be outside doing things. So we'll see what happens over the next few months. But talking about the G2, I didn't do a specific video about this, but I got an update saying it's due for delivery to me on the 30th of this month. I didn't do a video because, to be honest, after the amount of updates saying it's going to be here, 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 and it hasn't, I'm just like, well, no one needs another update. We all know it's roughly coming at the end of the month, because we know the UK shipment, the first batch, has left the factory in China and is on its way over here. Now, whether there's going to be enough in that shipment to get to all of us that pre-ordered in the first batch, I don't know. Because in the beginning, HP said that they are delaying the release to make sure every single person that pre-ordered the first batch gets their G2 on the same day. And they've already not done that, because there's people out there in the comments and other people on YouTube that have already got their units. I'm not talking YouTubers with VR channels that get them sent ahead of time for review. I'm talking just general people like me that have had to buy one. So they haven't stuck to that promise. You know, they said, excuse me, they're going to hold them back because the demand was greater than they thought, get them all made and promise to sell on the day of release, but that hasn't happened. So apparently it's the 30th. So we'll see what happens there. But anyway, that's probably enough of my waffling on for today. Has anyone else decided to buy, say, a 1080 Ti instead of a new card? Anyone else in a similar situation to me? Because the thing is, the 2080s are fetching maybe £100 to £150 more than the 1080 Ti. And obviously the 2080 performs basically the same as a 1080 Ti, but with better ray tracing support. So if ray tracing isn't important to you, like it isn't for me with my downstairs computer, because it's mostly going to be for VR, and VR doesn't have any ray trace games, the 1080 Ti is still the best I wouldn't say the best bang for buck, because the non-TI version is probably the best bang for buck. They're going for about 220 quid. But if you need something that performs really well still at 1080p and 1440p gaming, then a 1080 Ti is still a pretty decent card. And I may even do a couple of videos on how it does perform both using the G2 and the Quest 2, because I'm going to have one and people might want to know, because right now we can't buy new graphics cards, or at least not 30 series or 6000 series, and no one's going to pay £1,000 for a 2080 Ti when you can get the same performance for £500 or whatever a 3070 costs. So yeah, maybe I'll do some videos about the 1080 and whether that's worth buying for sort of 350 quid. 350 to 400 they seem to be going for. It might be a good option for those of us that do need something, but that just are fed up of wearing out their F5 key every few weeks. Anyway, yes, there's enough waffling about that. I'll catch you guys all in the next one, and as always, take it easy.